What is up, folks? We're back with a new episode of the show. This week's topic is anime hot takes. Before we get into it, I'm going to ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check that out. This is just the second video on this channel, so leave a comment, let us know what you want to see next, stuff like that. But getting right into it, hot take number 1: Attack on Titan is pretty overrated. Now, this is one you hear a lot, so maybe it's not even that much of a hot take anymore. I think it's just kind of mid. I think the show kind of overcompensates kind of shocking and gory events instead of interesting storylines and plot points. I don't think it's a bad show. I think it's pretty good. I give it maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10. But I hear a lot of people say that it's like the best show of all time. Not even close. I think it's just kind of overhyped. I mean, of course, the final season has great animation. Studio Mappa, they do an incredible job. So sometimes I think people get they see a really nicely animated show and they kind of just overblow how good it actually is. I'm as big a fan of good animation as anyone else is. It's just I don't think that makes up for not being particularly interesting. I think the show at times is just the dialogue is unlistenable, if that's a word. And just constantly there you have characters devolving into unintelligible screaming and just belligerent behavior, and it's kind of annoying. I don't particularly care for it, but again, overall the show's not bad, especially the further in you get into it. There is actually some interesting plot twists and kind of twists and turns to the story eventually, but early on it's kind of more flash over substance, or whatever that saying is. So that's the first hot take. Hot take number 2 is the manga manga is not always better than the anime. First, let me preface this by saying, am I a big am I a big supporter of reading the manga? Yes. I'm always a big supporter of reading any type of reading just books in general. Reading the manga, I am a big supporter of that. However, it is very obnoxious when people say that the manga is better than the anime, because that's almost never true. 90% of the time that is not true. It is not better to not see what's happening. Well, I mean, of course you're saying, but it is, you can see it, it's illustrated, blah blah blah. Yeah, but you don't really see the actual motion and action of what's happening. Like maybe if it's like not a very action oriented show, then maybe it doesn't really matter as much. But as most popular shows have a lot of action, and it's obviously better to see it than not see it. And anyone who doesn't agree with that is lying. They're either lying to you or they're lying to themselves. So again, I will concede that there are, like I said, 90% of the time the anime is better, because it's just the same thing, only you can actually see it in motion. But there are 10% of the time it is different. And there are cases of different shows. One of them I'll mention in my next hot take. But there are times where the manga is actually better than the show itself, just because it was done differently, or maybe it never finishes, or maybe it was just kind of interpreted a different way, or takes it a different direction. It's not as good. One of the examples is Toriko. The manga is way better. It's they just do a lot of different things with it than the actual show. One example that gets thrown around a lot is Tokyo Ghoul, just because there's literally a whole different route the story goes. I don't particularly think in that case one is better than the other. I just think they're different. I think they each have their pros and cons, or kind of strengths and weaknesses. Jeez Louise, can't even speak. But yeah, I don't think that it's particularly one is worse than the other. Well, I will say that the manga kind of fleshes out some questions more than the show itself. But yeah, so like I said, there are some cases. Definitely it's not 100% of the time. But for most of the time, it is actually better to actually see and watch the show than read it. Although again, I am still read it. I'm still a proponent of that. Anyway, moving on to our final hot take of the day. Now this one, I don't know. It's really more of an idea than it is even a hot take, I guess. But I have a theory. I don't know if it's a theory, but kind of a conjecture, maybe just a suggestion. That Hiro Mashima is actually the best manga author in the world. Now, if you're wondering who that is the guy that makes the show Fairy Tail. Well, he wrote the manga that was then turned into the show, but you get the point. Now, obviously, what you're thinking right now is, but Fairy Tail is not like anywhere as good as like One Piece or this or that or blah blah blah. Like, there's tons of guys that made series that is better than Fairy Tail. While I myself am a big Fairy Tail fan, I'll agree that there are definitely better series out there, but that is not what makes him the best author of all time. My argument for what makes him the best author of all time is the fact that he's not just made Fairy Tail, which is a big hit. It's kind of, I'm sure people have different opinions on it. It's a, opinion based how good you think it is, but objectively, it's been very successful worldwide. But in addition to Fairy Tail, he's also had other major works, such as Rave Master and his new series, Eden Zero, which have all had, anime adaptations and all done, I don't think either of them are as big as Fairy Tail currently. And one of them's kind of older. It was before Fairy Tail. One of them's newer. It's still, the second season's coming out this year. But, obviously I'll be honest and say I'm a big fan of all his works, Rave Master and Eden Zero included. But, my point is, let's just cut to the chase here. The point is, that's three, at minimum, I think you can objectively say these are above average works to his credit. Now, does that count as better or like rank above someone who really only has one famous work or one, big, work to their credit? Like, Eiichiro Oda, who's a great author. I think he definitely would deserve to be, considered the greatest of all time. But, what's his top three creations? There's One Piece, and then honestly, I couldn't name another. Now, is it quantity over quality, quality over quantity? That's up to you. It's just, in my opinion, you have a guy that has three major published works, whereas most people only have one. So, does that make him the best? That's my argument for why he's the best. But let me know who you think the best is. And that's all I got for the episode today. Thanks for listening again. Make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see next. What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for listening, and bing bong.